Let's see. It's like 7 p.m. Can't even see. I don't know what the date is. I think it's March 20. Let's see. The 25th was Saturday. Today's Wednesday. So I think it's the 29th, 25, 26, 27, 28. Maybe, I don't know. The maths. Anyways, the date's important because I was just thinking about the shooting that went on down in Tennessee. I probably never released this, so it doesn't really matter, but in case I do, I would probably wait. I'd probably record this now while it's fresh on my mind and wait to release it until the emotional part of everything that went on has calmed down. But I really enjoy Twitter. And I follow some individuals that I would say are really nice people, but they live in the world of like reality and norminess. And I see them on Twitter and they're like afraid and they think it's a dumpster fire and it's chaotic and their feelings are hurt and all this stuff. And it's funny because that's the exact reason that I like it. I like that the pleasantries are gone and I can actually see from an outside perspective what people say. You know, it's like, I don't know who's old enough to remember the Real World, but when people stop being polite and start getting real. Anyways, and just watching the political camps argue with one another, the propaganda machines on both sides, the individual brainwashing and how the bias shows people what's happening, the infighting, the libertarians fighting, everybody's fighting on all sides, pushing political agendas, pushing personal agendas, trying to get those likes and those thumbs up and those views. It's really interesting. I try to dissect it. Sometimes I troll. Troll is fun if you go in and you do it, where it's very reflective. What's the guy's name? Rorschach test, where the person sees what they want to see. If you can make the perfect tweet that the left's right at you, the libertarians are, the left's mad at you, the right's mad at you, and the libertarians are all upset with you, but you're also telling the truth. That's like the perfect tweet to me. Anyways, let's get into the philosophy of just what's going on here. So first, I mean, the theft is number one. Thou shalt not steal. It is like number one on the list of sins. And to steal life, you not only, you know, so when you murder somebody, the murder is just the act of killing them. With the theft of life, you have stopped everything that they were working on in woodwork and wood create. And then you've done damage to the people that love that individual. So the people that love that individual now have to take time away from what they're working on to heal, and they're stealing the time of those individuals. And then it's affecting outward. So even on, if you're completely selfish, you just look at extremely objective and robotically, without the emotion of the people getting hurt, it slows down society to a point where it's stealing time from everybody because the productivity of those individuals is now slowed. While they heal or while they make up the resources and what have you. So, thou shalt not steal is pretty much number one on the list in my mind. I mean, you only need really one amendment, one sin to rule all sins, and that is thou shalt not steal. Everything everything else is just a variation of that. Thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. You're just stealing from people either resources, emotional value, or what have you, where they have to recoup that time and energy. It's creating a partial slavery. But one of the weeds that I see the different shades of libertarian autism and conservatives and people get into, and I'm not talking about the propaganda machine people that are dug in, because you got a lot of people that are just like, I'm team trans, so how do we spin this for team trans? Or I'm team gun, so how do we spin this for team gun? And they do not care about principles, morals, ethics. They're just trying to win by all means necessary, and the ends justify the means. I'm talking about the individuals in the middle that are actually trying to come up with solutions, and amongst the pain and the sorrow, try to talk to people. And it's interesting because I've seen some libertarians now talk about like trans should be banned from owning guns, and it's a really interesting topic because I don't even know if I want to say this. So I try to stay as neutral as possible. So if you watch any of my videos, I wanted to play it from one side all the way to the other side and try to be as neutral as possible. It's my superpower and my curse. But my mindset is the fact that in actual true free society, the individuals would determine who they felt comfortable doing commerce with, and if they didn't want to sell an individual firearm for any reason at all, then they wouldn't, and they wouldn't have to. But within the cage, in the matrix, within the societal structure that we have now, I saw some libertarian people saying we need to keep guns on the hands of trans. And it's a really interesting thing because the left is saying we need to take guns, or they were saying we need to take guns out of the hands of the mentally ill. And then they made sure that they turned trans from what they used to call mental illness or mental diversity, what do they call it, neurodiversity. They've turned it into, it's a medical diagnosis where this is a scientific thing, it's not a mental illness, it's not body dysmorphia. These individuals are suffering because society is not accepting their biological determination, meaning these individuals are chemically, men, but they look like physical women, and when society doesn't recognize them as a biological man, it messes with their understanding of reality, and it's the outside observer's fault for not recognizing the chemical reactions of the interior biological mechanisms of these individuals. And that's a really precarious situation to put yourself in, because when there's no objective brain scans or anything to prove any of that stuff, it basically just becomes the government chooses who's mentally stable and who's mentally sane, and who can get firearms and who can't get firearms. And one of the things that I've been posting in Twitter is bake that gay cake. Meaning this idea of somebody being free, like to have a gay marriage back in the day, no one thought it was a big deal. And then when they forced them to make, to give gay cakes, they didn't think it was a big deal. But I've been making the argument now, when you go to get a federal background check, most people think of it like the federal background check gets passed, and if it doesn't get passed, you can't have a gun and the gun shop owner can't give it to you. But what I was talking about today, what if a trans person comes in, the federal government recognizes them as sane and not mentally ill. They pass them. Then the shop owner who actually had face-to-face interaction with them did not feel comfortable and doesn't want to sell a firearm to this particular individual. And it can be anything. I'm happening to use transgender, but it could be just a person off the street that they got a bad feeling from with no political identity or anything like that. That shop owner needs to be able to discriminate because it's his, and all in all, it's his final say. And I actually got to cut this short. I'm at my destination, but the idea of the video was going to be, maybe I'll just use this as an outline for a future video. The idea of the video would be in a society that had rules without rulers, individuals could choose to interact with one another how they seem fit. And I would see it as you would have a communal insurance, so a gun shop owner would want some sort of insurance that he would pay for safety, and it would be twofold. He wouldn't just pay so that like his people could go, he could sell guns and they kill people, and that he's covered by the insurance policy. The insurance company wants to make money, so they would have scientists and people in the background determining ways to, who could safely own guns. And then they would say, okay, we'll give you insurance, and here are the rules you would have to follow to maintain the insurance. And so the gun shop owner wouldn't have to worry about that. He would get like his list of rules and regulations organically and not forced upon him from the insurance company. Now, he wouldn't be forced to have insurance, but then you're running a risk as well as losing your livelihood and everything. But also, if he wanted his community to be safe, and he also wasn't exactly sure who is a great candidate for gun ownership, then the insurance companies' invested interest in not losing money that they would have to pay out insurance would cover that. And then this would just kind of like spiral out and overlay throughout the different community, meaning the gun shop owner wants to be in a certain community and work with the water company. The water company said, well, we're not going to provide you water unless you have some sort of safety insurance because you're selling a firearm which could take a life. And maybe the water company doesn't care, but he goes to buy groceries, and the groceries like, well, we don't sell groceries to somebody in our community that's bringing danger into the community. And it's just a great overlap of people wanting safety. But if you want to have a successful gun shop, you also don't want violent criminals having guns coming into your shop and stealing your profits in your firearms or in your community, or killing your customers or potential customers. In the current setup, no one wants to ban guns. This is one of the main factors that we have to understand. No one is looking to ban guns. The people like David Hodge that are making these things, they want the U.S. government to have a monopoly on force and guns. So they want just the police, the military, and the politicians to have guns. The elites, who they deem. I mean, who amongst us hasn't seen Biden and been like, well, this guy's mentally stable, he should have a gun? Or maybe if you're a Democrat and like, just picture Trump's in office, right? Just picture this. Biden passes a law. The government's the only people that can have guns. Everybody else's guns have to be removed. Biden gets out of office and Trump wins. Now you've given Trump the power over a country in which that country, the only people that are allowed to have firearms are an elite group of people, technically ruled by an oligarchy, but with Trump in power as those people within the system would see it. I know many people don't see it in the future. I'll have to do a video about why Trump is literally Hitler and Putin is literally Hitler in the future from a systematic standpoint from the individuals who are trying to create one global government. I won't do that right now. I guess it'll be a teaser. These are... I guess I'll have to, like any art form, and I suppose philosophy, the love of wisdom, is kind of an art form, or the oratorial part of it, explaining it to individuals, is an art form. This past weekend, I was hanging out with a friend, and I was making a very neutral argument about something, and they were getting really angry, and I couldn't get them to make the leap into the neutral aspect of it, and they felt as if by not taking a stance, I was taking a stance on the opposition of their stance that they had taken. Kind of reminded me of when Jogason, I don't know her name, the woman there that was running for the Libertarian Party, whoever it was, tweeted out from her account that we can't, it's not enough to not be racist, you must be anti-racist. Like, you have to be against racism, which means you have to actively go out there. So it's like, it's creating this like anti world where you're creating a thou shall. So instead of like thou shalt not steal, you're creating a thou shalt not only not steal, but be against the act of stealing and those who steal. Like, I don't want to get into philosophical aspects of having a thou shalt. You can have a thou shalt not, but when you have a thou shalt, it's like, if I go into a coma, am I now a racist because I can't physically be against racism? Anyways, dribble jabble on. Hope everybody's having a good day. I'm at my destination, so I'm either talking to myself in the car, or this will turn into a video in the future. Oh, it's a video right now, but a public video.